Hello and welcome to Lost in Chronologically Lost, episode 37, where the best characters in the entire series die.
Wait, who died?
Nikki and Paulo.
Oh yeah. Look, I watched the episodes like 2 days ago, and I have the worst memory. You know, I say every single time that like I totally forget what happened in the last episodes till I start the next ones. I didn't even know who you were referring to. But yeah,
Well,
that
it shows
was
the impact they had.
well, that was really something as a plot line, but that comes later.
Yes.
So, to begin, I just wanted to bring up last week between recordings, I had a thought that, Jacob, not a bad dude. He just wants people to be good to each other. And, the others, they worship Jacob. They are Jacob fanatics. And yet, they do a lot of killing. They do a lot of things I would call bad. And then I realized, oh, the Christianity parallels, they're making a point with those. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it is really weird though in that, you can literally just meet God in this sense. I mean, he chooses not to involve himself, but he'll still talk to Richard.
Yeah. I mean, he is physically there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wanted to mention that because I think we start to get a little more stuff about, what the others believe with the island and Jacob. We're starting to develop that more in the plot with Locke later this episode. But where we start, we just see Kate and Saeed and Locke watching Jack play football.
Yeah, and Rousseau's like, okay, well, I'm not about this life, so see ya.
Yeah. And this whole time, I'm just like, hide better. Holy shit, they're gonna see you. They do not look like they're hiding very well.
No, and they see, Jack and Ben shaking hands, so Kate's like, oh my god, they brainwashed him or something, but...
Yeah, Kate, she really has a hard time believing that anyone could choose to work with the others.
And for at least Jack's reason makes sense to her. Locke's reasons later on,
But, she just... Even to Locke later, she's like, what did they do to you? And I mean, we see what the reasons are, even though she doesn't, but I kind of don't blame her. From her perspective, you really wouldn't want to side with the others, and it would make no sense to choose to.
Yeah. So they wait until nightfall to go break in, and Kate goes to, rescue Jack, only to see that he's being watched, and now she and Saeed are captured.
That just... Bad plan completely fell apart because there's a camera. And it's like, he shouts at her to leave, and it's like, at first it's like, does he not want to be saved? And it's like, no, he knows there's cameras. This was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But,
and then Locke shows up to Ben's house, and he's, threatening him with a gun, and Ben's like, oh, don't worry, I'll tell you where Jack is. He's like, no, I'm here for the submarine,
and as
baby.
soon as he says that, I'm just like, oh, no. Because...
Yep.
Well, we really know that he doesn't want to leave himself.
Yeah, so, he ends up taking Alex hostage to force Ben to do things.
Yeah, and then Richard and Tom come in, I think, and they say, Kate and Saeed are here. And Ben says, bring the man from Tallahassee. And Locke asks, is that a code? And Ben says, unfortunately, there's no code for there's a man in my closet with a gun to my daughter's head. Which...
That we obviously should.
Yeah. Ben, I'm starting to see why you like Ben so much as a villain. He has pretty funny lines.
Yeah. And so obviously the man from Tallahassee will end up being Locke's father, which is who... You were convinced that plotline was not going to get resolved. You thought it was over.
I didn't know how it could, but okay, again, let's get to that later. So anyway, Locke wants Saeed's pack, and Ben is like, Alex hates me, so you don't really want to hold me hostage, but Alex, it's just, I don't care.
Yeah, and it's at this moment Ben realizes that Locke wants to destroy the submarine, and in his mind he's like, everything clicks, and he's like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that, like, you know, Alex sort of plays it later as like he's manipulating you. He makes you think it was your idea when it was his idea, and like, yeah, Ben was encouraging this, but it was totally Locke's idea. Locke wanted to do it either way.
yeah, Locke had come up with this plan independent of ever meeting Ben.
He came in with this plan. They just, I mean, the whack thing is, Ben and Locke kind of get along and agree on things.
Yeah, so Ben reveals that he knows Locke's whole backstory, and then we see Kate. They've like immediately thrown her into the storeroom area, and she's immediately already slipping out of those handcuffs, which I do like to see.
It looks like they threw her into like a rec room because there's like
yeah,
a pool table and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to point out like Ben wanted to get into his chair because he wanted dignity. And it's like parallels with Locke, you know, parallels of the paralyzed.
Yeah,
Anyway.
See, this whole thing really makes me wonder how the whole series would have played out if the dynamic was between Locke and Echo as opposed to, you know, Locke and Ben here.
Yeah, it's like I think I've mentioned, Lost is interesting because they have to just figure out new plots when things don't work out, and you see what they come up with. Anyway, so Jack comes in, and he sits on a folding chair like he's a youth pastor, and they just kind of confirm they haven't been hurt.
And they have a whole argument about rescuing, of like, I told you not to come back. It's like, well, obviously I was going to come back, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And it's all emotional, and like, in some ways it's like I like them together better than Sawyer, but the thing is, like, obviously Kate and Sawyer is yikes, but I think I mentioned they kind of have more chemistry just because the writers always give them, like, having fun together, whereas, like, we had some of that in season 1, but now with Kate and Jack, it's just, like, they only talk when it's serious plot stuff going on.
Yeah, so, you know, Jack is like, okay, well, I cut a deal with them, they're gonna let me leave, and, you know, once I leave, then I'm gonna get help, and I'll come back, which,
so, like,
you can't, but nice try.
You can't, but I just... Like, I like that he said that, so it doesn't feel like Kate isn't gonna go, you're abandoning us, because, like, I think even Kate would agree, like, or anyone would agree, like, yeah, one person leaving and trying to bring help is better than no one leaving.
Yeah, but then he just kind of twists the knife into Kate and says, I trust them because you made me trust them.
Yeah.
Which is just... I mean, he's not wrong. She did kind of make him do that.
Yeah, so then Juliet's here, says he has to leave, and Jack, he whispers in Kate's ear he'll come back for her. That's kind of nice to see.
Yeah. So then, you know, Ben is asking Locke about, like, oh, how'd you heal? Like, as soon as you came off the plane, it was instant and everything.
Yeah.
And then Locke's like, interesting that you're not healing fast.
Yeah.
And that you got sick in the first place. Isn't that something?
Trying to call him out. And, you know, I haven't seen enough, so I don't really know, like, how, like, why Ben hasn't healed from the island. And I don't know, like, how right Locke is when he calls out Ben. Because Locke sort of calls him out later, like, let's get to that point in the conversation. Because before that, we get Locke asking for some food. And then we get Saeed, you know, being chained up, and Alex comes and, you know, gets his pack, and we get a great moment of Saeed being like, you look like your mother. Like, my mother's dead? I'm sure that's what they told you.
Yeah, it's just... And this is also, like, such a, you know, the sort of changeling fantasy for Alex that, you know, her real mom is somewhere out there, and it's a different life than the one she's in.
Yeah, she's gotta love that. And I like that Saeed's the one who says it, just because Saeed is, like, he's the character who really is, like, one of the closest to Rousseau out of the main cast. I guess Hurley was, too, that one time, but, like, Saeed is, like the liaison to Rousseau, so that he's also the one who gets to deliver this message. It's a little more meaningful than if it just came from, like, Kate.
Yeah. So then Ben is asking Locke, "Oh, please don't blow up the sub. If you blow up the sub,
Yeah.
all my plans will go wrong." Which is just,
Yeah.
he's really saying, "Please blow it up for me, Locke.
And
please."
also, we also just get him eating Ben's chicken, and I thought it was
If you
interesting.
knew how special this island is, you wouldn't be keeping chicken in your refrigerator.
Yeah, see, I thought it was interesting that some of the stuff in the fridge was that like generic Dharma brand stuff. And anyway, then Ben tells Locke like, picture the box, and anything you want is there. And we know the island has nothing like that, and it's funny that Ben, he already knows what he has in a box for Locke. He's just holding it back.
You see, and this is where the Lost writers legitimately prove that they are better than J.J. Abrams, because they introduce the literal idea of a mystery box, but then they actually, one, answer what's inside of it, two, in an exciting way.
Yeah, I love it when the answer is even more exciting than the question. That's the goal with mysteries.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I like that Locke says, "You better hope that box can give you a new submarine." Which,
Yeah.
could Locke's dad, like, scam someone out of a submarine? Probably. That's probably a bit much for him.
He couldn't scam Ben out of a submarine, though. He couldn't scam the others. They wouldn't fall for it.
But what if they, like, sent him out in the world to get them a new submarine? I don't know. I'm just thinking, how could that box possibly give them one? Anyway, this is where Locke calls Ben out, says, "You cheat, you communicate with the outside world, you can leave, you have electricity, running water, guns. You don't deserve this island." And like he says, "You don't even understand what this island really is." And this I found interesting, because on one hand, Ben understands a lot more about what the island is, and there is something to like he's lived there, the actual cult of Jacob. Locke just got here, and as Ben says, like, he's been here his whole life. But on the other hand, I feel like there could be something to Locke kind of making that point that, like, you're the religious leader who is, like, become corrupt and indolent, and, like, you just enjoy the luxuries of your leadership rather than...
Whereas God literally performed a miracle on me specifically.
Yeah, oh yeah, that too. So, on one hand, like, obviously, Ben is going to show Locke some things, or I don't even know what he's going to show him later, next episode or something. Who knows when. But on the other hand, like, Locke does get the island, so I think there could be something to, like, Ben isn't healing because he is enjoying a life of luxury as the leader. But at the same time, I think Locke has totally made up the idea that the island wants them to live like cavemen.
Yeah, Ben also makes a point. He's like, "Oh, blowing up the submarine won't matter because the return beacon isn't working anymore, so it's a one-way trip," which we know is a lie because Tom left and came back. And as Alex is walking Locke to the submarine, Rousseau sees her, and it's like, "Oh, that's sad."
Yeah, she doesn't come in. I mean, the plot is still gonna go somewhere. Obviously, we'll get the reunion someday. You know what? I really hope that they don't pull some shit like Rousseau, like, only meets Alex right before dying. I feel like that's something this show would do, and I really hope they don't.
What? When have they ever done something like that?
Anyway,
then Jack goes to ask Ben. He's like, "Hey, can you let my friends go?" And he gets Ben's word that I'll let them go once you leave the island. She's just like, fuck off, Ben.
It's interesting to see, like, the different sides of Ben's manipulation, because we saw, like, all of these plot lines chronologically, so we see, like, he knows what's gonna happen. It's not like we saw the conversation with Jack and then later got the reveal that Locke was blowing it up and, like, a twist that he was betraying him. We just kind of see the progression of how Ben thinks and how he tricks people.
Yeah, so then we get this, as if blowing up the flame wasn't enough. At this point, the series cemented people against Locke, that he blows up the one way to leave the island.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that, like, he really blows up a lot of stuff. Like, It's like, and it's like every important, plot interesting thing gets blown up. That's kind of becoming a thing in the show. And it's odd because I can't, like, on... So you hyped up Season 3 Locke for me, and he's definitely lived up to that, like, because, yeah, he's doing stuff like that, but I can't be too bothered by it, just because, like, I know the general notes of how the plot will go in, like, Season 5, so, like, yeah, they weren't gonna get away anyway.
Yeah, so it's not as bad when you're watching this and you know that, you know, like, at least Jack and everything will leave the island even if they come back, right?
Yeah.
But when you're watching this in real time and, you know, you watched for, like, at this point 2.5, maybe like 2 years, 8 months, and it's like, oh, they're so close, they have the submarine, they're gonna leave, and then Locke blows it up. It's like, we hate Locke at that point. He's done. Like...
Anyway... I think it's interesting that, like... I don't know. I feel like there is a very narrow path to escaping the island, which is that you get the guns, you hold people hostage, you get yourself on the submarine, and you, at gunpoint, you force someone to pilot the submarine away. Now, there are a lot of other people back on the beach, so... And the others control the return beacon, so you might not be able to get back if that happens. So... I don't know if it's really a good plan, but I think it's theoretically possible to have escaped on the submarine. That said, it would be very, very unlikely. They probably would not pull that off.
No.
I mean, they're very outnumbered.
Yeah, so then Locke figures out, he's like, oh, you wanted me to destroy... the submarine, and Ben gives a whole thing of like, yep, basically I was fucked, and you came in and solved all my problems for me, so thanks.
And it's like, wow, so there's a few levels of this. So like you said, he couldn't break his word to Jack, and he also couldn't let Jack leave. And I mean, wow, this is kind of like you're losing the chess game, so you plan to bomb under the table. Like, wow. That's your solution.
You're losing the chess game, and so a third party comes in and shoots your opponent, so you go, oh, thanks, I won. Like,
a third party comes in and throws a grenade at the table.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's like, wow, I mean, yeah, I get that you wanted to not seem weak, so you needed a solution, but wow, that's how you solve your problem. And I guess actually being able to leave the island isn't that important to you then.
Yeah, no, it's clearly not.
Yeah. And also... I'm tired. So, also, it's interesting that Ben doesn't really care about his people being able to leave the island. He's fine with them being stuck there, just as long as they don't blame him for it. But also,
to be fair, he also does know that the freighter... is coming pretty soon. He's got that plan in motion.
True. That's good point. Good point. Did the writers think of that yet?
Absolutely not.
Anyway, so
then, Ben is like, hey, I'm going to show you what's in the mystery box.
Wait, before that, I want to point out one more thing. And suddenly it's on the tip of my tongue. So I wanted to point out, it's very important to Ben that he doesn't lose, like, the trust of his followers. And I think that's interesting because the others, they have leaders and they obviously listen to Richard and Jacob. But the others do, like, they do kind of choose their leaders based off of, like, like, Ben leads by consent of the people, basically. And we know that because he was able to oust Widmore and sort of gain the trust of the people instead of Widmore. And I think that kind of shines an insight into why he really didn't want to make it seem like he was letting Jack win.
Yeah, so anyways, he goes to show Locke what came out of the mystery box. And it is Locke's dad. So...
Yeah. So, wow, look, this is great. This is interesting. I'm sure that he was, running from the police or going on whatever, like he escaped to some Cayman Islands or whatever. It was that where he was going? Doesn't matter. He was doing something on the run, and he got stranded on the island. That is just a great thing to do with the plot. And also, was the flashback here how Locke got paralyzed?
Oh yeah, that is
Yeah.
the flashback. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure this was a great episode then. Like, I mean, sure, you might hate Locke for blowing it up, but you get that flashback, and then you get Locke seeing his dad, which is just like, I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen, but the whole time...
And then you get the Nikki and Paulo episode.
Yes. So the whole time, I was thinking things like, how could you possibly do more with Locke's dad as a plot line? And I said that at the time, like, once you're on the island, that's kind of just totally separate. But of course, he ends up stranded here too, and I don't even know what drama's gonna happen.
Yeah, so, then Ben is like, hey, we're all gonna move, we're all gonna stop living at the Dharma camp, which, when you first if you're watching this normally, it's like, that seems like a really arbitrary thing to do. But I think now that he knows Widmore's men are coming on the freighter and everything, I think it's like a preemptive, like, okay, let's get out of this sitting duck position we're in.
Oh my
and
god.
go move somewhere else.
I didn't think that. I was literally...
I guarantee the writers did not think of that, but it lines up exactly.
Okay, yes, we can take that as canon because death of the author, whatever, like, the story can speak for itself on that. But wow, yeah. I was literally going to ask, why the hell are they leaving? And then it's like, what, you throw that at me. Like, that does make sense. Because I was thinking that, like, this whole time, it's like, I'm watching this show, a lot of this show, I'm watching and thinking, like, the others live at the Dharma base. This is, like, gonna be their base of operations, where, like, once we, see the others, we're gonna be constantly dealing with the others who live there, and as soon as we get there, they just leave, and it's so weird, because, like, this is all of their nice facilities and everything. Why would they leave? And, like, where do they have to go? I don't understand. But I guess that makes sense.
Yep. Then we have Kate is prepared to try and break out again, so as soon as Juliet comes in, she attacks her, but Juliet just overpowers her, and it's like, I was just bringing you a sandwich.
Yeah. I mean, Jack did that too when Juliet wanted to bring him food.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, I bet that Juliet was.
But Jack was like successful in the overpowering part.
No. I think that Juliet was prepared to fight to like get surprise attacked because Jack had done that, and she was like, Kate's probably the same as Jack.
Yeah. So then we see a scene of Ben and Juliet planning
their
next move.
This is a chronologically
which ruins
lost...
the entire suspense of the next plot line.
Yes, so she's going to be dragged into the jungle, handcuff herself and say she was gassed too, admit to the lie if called out, go to the beach with them, and then there's a whole thing where, like, there's an implant in Claire to make her sick, so then Juliet will save her to earn trust. And so on one level, yes, I get robbed of all that tension and that mystery of whether we can trust her. But you want to know why I find this really frustrating?
Why?
Because I want to see Juliet join the main cast as just like an actual person we can trust and have on our side because she's cool and I liked her in season 5. And instead, I'm just going to spend, like, once she joins, I'm going to spend this whole time thinking, oh, she's just a spy for Ben. And I know it'll happen eventually. I want good guy Juliet already.
Yeah. Anyways, this is also just to like wrap up the thing of like, why was Ethan injecting her with a thing? Apparently, it was this whole long play plan by Ben. Like, sure, bro.
Sure. Anyway, it's tanker time. So Michael is, swabbing the deck. When he sees people firing guns for fun. It's the mercenaries just kind of having fun shooting targets that they shoot out. This seems like a massive waste of ammo. Like, they're not shooting with, like, pistols or rifles,
I think that tells you how much ammo they have.
Well,
though.
they're not like carefully taking aim. They're like spamming a machine gun in the direction of the targets. Like, I think that is just wasteful.
I think they've got ammo to waste.
I think that Charles Widmore may be rich, but you don't get rich by wasting money.
Anyway, so this is where Michael's like, okay, this clearly isn't a rescue mission if they have all these people with guns. So,
and
let's do it.
I definitely still don't, understand, I still don't understand, what Widmore's plan is and, everything he wants. Although I should mention, I know Widmore will become relevant in, Season 4 or early Season 5 in some way, in that the main characters will know who he is, because we did have that scene in the 50s when Locke was, they were dealing with the others in the 50s, and Locke was like, your name is Charles Widmore, at a young Charles Widmore, so Locke will know who Widmore is, so Widmore will, obviously the tanker will get there, but they will also know that, Widmore was behind it, or something like that. Anyway, back to what's happening. I don't know what Widmore's plan is, but we did get, Tom saying, everyone on the island will die. And I don't know if that was him doing mystical island stuff, but I guess it could just be he will have his mercenaries kill everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway...
So Michael opens up the box he was given.
Okay, yeah, so he opens it up and, he's struggling. It's a fake toolbox and there's a bomb underneath. And he then Libby saying not to do it. Wow.
Yeah, but then he tries to blow it up anyways, and instead just gets a note saying, not yet.
Prank! Guess what, Michael? All of this was a prank! The island, the others, everything, and, Libby and Ana Lucia aren't dead. That was a fake gun, fake blood. You are the victim of the biggest prank of all time, and you're on TV right now.
That's a good one, yeah.
Your suicide attempt, we sabotaged that so you wouldn't die. Anyway, so they had a failsafe because he's not supposed to blow it up yet, but really, so he's thrown a ball against a wall. So the guy who comes and tells Michael that he has a call, we've seen him before, right? Was he just in the last?
Yes, he was the doctor that Michael matched for it before he got on the freighter.
Alright, yeah. Because I like him. He just seems like a nice dude. He seems like a real helpful, genuine dude. I'm sure he does.
So he tells him, you've got a call from Walt, but it's, of course, not from Walt.
Yeah. And, wow. I get that Ben wanted to make sure Michael would answer the call, but it's still, dick move.
Yeah, so then Ben's like, hey, no, this is a show. There's some innocent people on your boat, so don't blow it up yet. Because we don't kill innocents.
I'm better than Widmore. And, look, do the others kill innocents? Absolutely. Ethan sure did.
Yeah.
But when Michael says Ana Lucia and Libby were innocent, that one, it is on you, Michael.
Yeah, no, there's hey, we didn't tell you to do that. We just told you to rescue me.
And, yes, indirectly, the others were responsible for the situation, and the others are obviously not innocent there. But you kind of did that one, Michael.
Yeah, so then says, make a list of names, and then wreck the radio and engine rooms. So, yeah, that's the thing.
If the names to, give to Jacob? I don't know. Jacob likes names.
I'm still unclear as to the whole name thing.
Anyway, finally, we get Nikki and Paulo. So I think I want to talk overall about this Nikki and Paulo plot before we get into the specifics.
Okay.
So when we're watching what happened, how they paralyzed each other and, their drama, I was just really? What even my honest thought in the notes that I have here is that this feels as cheesy and ridiculous as the show that Nikki was acting in.
You know what I heard?
But the thing is, then it turns out that the whole episode is supposed to be structured around being this ridiculous murder mystery that I think is kind of intentionally kind of doing stuff in that silly style. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's the point. And then I realized that, it's supposed to be this ridiculous mystery, and then the answer ends up being something like so crazy, and it's like, oh, had diamonds all along, and now I'm sad that I didn't get to experience this as it was released, and I had to do it chronologically, because I think it would have been so fun to see this absurd mystery and like suspect what the hell happened, and then it turns out they were fighting over diamonds and were paralyzed.
Yeah. So what's really funny about this is, so obviously the writers didn't intend to kill off Nikki and Paulo in the middle of season 3. They just thought they would be 2 new characters until people absolutely hated them. So they were like, "Hey, let's just kill them, get them out of here." Apparently, one of the original plans before the plan was to kill them off was it would be an entire episode showing Nikki as like a stripper investigating people, only to at the very end of the flashback reveal that was her on a TV show. Like,
oh my god!
Which I feel like that could be funny, but I also feel like I like the one scene we got. I think one scene was enough to convey that.
That would definitely be funny, but I think the episode would be disliked.
It would be funny, but in a time-wasting funny sense instead of a
not
gag.
Not necessarily for Lost. It's definitely something that would have made this episode even more hated or I don't know, would it be appreciated for that? Because that'd be so over the top, people would kind of take it as a joke, maybe. Either way,
I think it would be too time-wasty. Yeah. I think at least this one, especially when you watch the original version and you can binge it, from what I've noticed, actually, is, because I've watched some more reactors watch this online, and some of the reactors, they watch it in, like, a group of episodes that they then, put on YouTube, spaced out weeks apart, right? Mm-hmm. And they seem to actually love it. But the people who actually did watch one week to week, so they can post one week to week, they still hated it because they had to waste a week watching a Nikki and Paulo episode.
Yeah. We got some crazy stuff in the episodes we watched for this today. And on one level, I just got this crazy Locke stuff, and now it's like, oh, Nikki and Paulo. But on the other hand, like, I got enough. I got so much crazy stuff that I'm fine with having some Nikki and Paulo stuff in between.
Right. So this plot happens where... they have a whole conversation, but the end point is that Paulo's like, oh, finding the bag, not finding it was actually good. Yeah, but then he makes a super dumb mistake and just drops his nicotine gum.
And then she goes and yells at Sawyer asking for a gun, and Sawyer's like... look, I give this one a certified good decision by Sawyer award.
Also, what's a fun fact is the book that Sawyer's reading in the scene... it's an Agatha Christie mystery novel about a murder that takes place on a beach and involves an alive person pretending to be dead through the use of things.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she brings Paulo into the woods, and she's like, I know where the diamonds are, you have them. She throws a spider at him, because that's what that whole thing ages ago was setting up with Dr. Arzt. And
of course, this was only 10 minutes ago when you watched it originally, some episodes ago.
Yeah, and so when I watched this, this being the ridiculous answer to a silly mystery is great, but when I was watching this as the first part of the episode, I was just like, what the hell is this drama? Who cares about this? But yeah, so she paralyzes him, and I even feel like she is kind of overacting a bit. It's probably on purpose by the show, but she's kind of overacting as though she's on her TV show. And she throws his shoe in a tree, which is the most important clue, and then finds the diamonds under his dick, and then he's like, I was afraid of losing you. And then more spiders just randomly, conveniently come and paralyze her.
Well, no, because, again, to be fair, I did only remember this because I watched her reaction to this where I saw it in normal order. But Dr. Arzt does say, oh, one little sniff of the pheromones of the female that I keep here, and all the males in the whole island will come trying to get at her.
Oh, that's...
Except that's actually not what happened, because... you want to know why that normal animal explanation isn't the explanation?
Why?
Because we hear the smoke monster noises, and people ask, why do we hear the smoke monster noises before the other spiders hit Nikki? And the writers confirmed that it was the smoke monster shape-shifting into the form of another spider to bite her. I'm dead serious.
I thought you were gonna say the smoke monster picked up a spider and put it there.
No, the smoke monster was the fucking spider.
Oh my god. Anyway.
That's just, I'm like, why would you have to write that? You already had a normal explanation.
Anyway,
she buries the diamonds quickly and then runs into camp before collapsing, saying, paralyzed.
And so Hurley is like, she's dead, and Sawyer still does not know who she is.
Yeah, so that was like the opener to that episode, was her running.
Oh yeah, I figured that out. So does this give the flashback like everything that happened to them from
other than when Nikki and Paula just showed up with the other group during early season 3, everything Nikki and Paula was this singular episode.
Yeah, so it's really funny that includes them finding the pearl.
Yeah.
So they find Paula's body too. Wait, no, before that, no.
Well, before that, Hurley's like, oh, she was saying Paula lies, which is just like so frustrating. Like, you're so close.
Because this is the crazy mystery episode, and Charlie notices the gunk under her fingernails, of course. So then they find
Sawyer
Paula's body, and they're like, why are his pants undone? Why is his shoe in the tree? What a mystery. Jin almost drinks the water, and they're like, don't drink it. It could be poison. And like, this is where I start to appreciate how this episode is just an over-the-top mystery.
Yeah, and then Jin's like, oh, monster.
And he was right!
It's like, yeah, technically he was right. Like, are you fucking kidding? And then Hurley's like, oh, hey, didn't Echo say you're next? And they were in that group?
Oh my god.
And to be fair, since Echo saying you're next does not make any actual sense, I'm gonna go with this as it.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Yeah. The smoke monster Man in Black put his sights on, I guess, Nikki in particular. I still don't understand why he kills who he chooses to, but you've told me that will be vaguely explained eventually.
Very vaguely.
Anyway, so... Yeah, so...
They go to raid their tent, and we find out that Hurley was an Exposé fan.
Yeah, and... So he never, mentioned he recognized Nikki from it?
Well, because Nikki was a guest star, and the episode she filmed it, right before she got on the plane.
Oh.
It wouldn't have aired yet.
Okay.
And, well, like she says, we all know what happens to guest stars.
Yeah.
They die.
So they see all the bugs, and then they're like, yeah, he reads the script, he hypes up the show, and he's like, holy shit, Mr. Lashad was the Cobra?
They've been teasing his reveal for 4 seasons.
Anyway,
and then they find their walkie-talkie that Paulo took from, Juliet, and they're like, oh, they were working with the others.
Yeah.
Which, that would make too much sense.
I love... This is where I start to love how ridiculous of a mystery it is, just because they hype... It's like, oh my god, Paula was lying. Were they working for the others? Was it the smoke monsters? They paralyzed each other over diamonds.
Yeah. And then Hurley... And here we get, the only actual plot of this episode, which is that Hurley is like, oh, it can't be the others. They're on the other side of the island. And Sun's like, well, they just grabbed me. So
yeah, and
that happened. And then you just see Charlie oh, yikes.
Charlie just has such a, so this is awkward.
Yeah.
Then Sawyer's going to sweep the perimeter, but he's actually wants to find what she buried. And then Hurley asks Desmond, whose psychic powers don't work like that. Hurley calls out Desmond for having a lame superpower, but Hurley is not much better.
Well, Hurley's superpower hasn't really kicked in yet.
Yeah. Anyway, so...
And then here's the thing, we get a quick scene where they've covered up Nikki and Paula with a sheet, and Vincent knew they were alive, and he takes the sheet off, and it's listen to the dog, people.
Yeah. And so Hurley thinks that Sawyer is suspicious, and
well, before that, we had Charlie telling Sun that it was him.
No, I'm talking about before that. Hurley.
Oh, you're right.
Hurley, because Desmond says that Nikki was yelling at Sawyer, and again it's like, oh, what a clue, but then it's meaningless, or like it's a clue towards something else. And so Hurley thinks he's suspicious, like, why does Sawyer care so much about investigating this? And then Charlie tells the truth, and he's like, I was mad at Locke, helped Sawyer, and Sun just leaves. So then when they're digging a grave, Hurley asks...
What I want to say is when he goes like, I after Locke hit me, I wasn't myself, and I just wanted to add the line, the writers were trying something new with my character, and it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, he had the hood on all the time. Anyway, so then...
So obviously Sawyer was being sus just because he took the diamonds.
Yeah, and he just gives them the diamonds because they're worthless. Which, the thing about these diamonds is, I think
Sawyer's kind of given up on being rescued at this point.
Yeah,
like, come on.
The thing about it is, I know that some of the characters will make it back home, and sure, getting rich as fuck would be convenient, but I'm gonna give it that's okay that they don't, because that clearly didn't work out for Hurley.
Well, we know that one of the people who makes it back home is Hurley, who's already rich as fuck, and they're all friends with Hurley. So I mean,
Yeah, if like, sure, they might not each be buying their own mansion, but if they needed anything, Hurley would help them.
Yeah. So then, Sun confronts Sawyer and is like, "Hey, you're the one who came up with the entire fake kidnapping thing." And he's like, Yeah, it was me.
And she
does have a really raw line where she's like, I won't tell Jin, because then we'd have to dig another grave.
Yep.
Which,
and
I love Sun.
Yeah, you love to see it. So then Hurley gives kind of a funeral speech. They killed each other with diamonds, but they were always nice to him. And we dropped the diamonds.
Yeah, I do love trying to say something nice about people that, one, you don't know, and it's like, we didn't know you, and it appears you killed each other over diamonds.
Yeah, so finally, Nikki's eye opens just before, the more sand falls on her, and they are buried alive. And it would be so easy for them to just wake up right before being buried alive, and it would just be like, oh, they were alive all along, how fun. But the writers just kind of decided, yeah, we don't.
No, they are dead. They got buried alive.
We don't need them anymore. They can have that silly fate. And I mean, they were murderers.
Right, yeah. I forgot. I legitimately completely forgot about the guy they murdered.
Yeah. They stole those diamonds. They killed him for them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So then Locke comes to say goodbye to Kate, and Kate's like, what? Goodbye? What?
Why are you're brainwashed? And I mean, Locke brainwashed himself.
The island brainwashed Locke.
Nah, he brainwashed himself. And he says, he made a case for her, but, he found out about what she's done, which, I mean, I don't stand Kate as much as you do, but she did kill a horrible abuser, and then the other guy was an accident.
Yeah, and, what did she ever do to the other? I don't think she actually shot any of them.
Yeah.
And
the others, I mean, I think it's just the others have this general bias where, they're the ones Jacob selects are good people we need, and everyone else, you're garbage. And then they're just like, oh, you're a criminal? Okay, that can be why you're garbage. But they just assume that everyone's garbage anyway.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, that's a very confusing thing for him to have said, and for the others to care about,
Yeah.
Anyway, then we get... I was wrong when I said...
I gotta say, I feel bad for Kate here, just because it feels like... She's Saeed too, but she's the sane one, and yet everyone is going crazy around her.
Yeah,
It sucks that Saeed basically didn't get to do anything during this arc.
You even see hate... earlier when she tried to jump Juliet to try and get out and failed. You see people hate on her for that. And it's just okay, yeah, she failed, but she tried. What else did you want her to do?
Yeah, Juliet clearly... I mean, Juliet...
She did her best.
Juliet threw her. Juliet was using some martial arts moves and was clearly ready.
Yeah. So, last time we recorded, I told you that the ping pong storyline was the last fun storyline. I was wrong because I forgot about this storyline where Hurley tells Sawyer they're going to vote on banishing him.
So around like a third of the way through this plotline, I started to think, did Hurley just make that up? And yeah, that's just kind of the whole point of this, but it's fun.
Oh, it's so fun.
So then
we cut to Kate eating her floor sandwich.
Yeah.
And then she sees the others packing up and putting on gas masks, that's honestly like an existential yike scenario to just look out and see everyone else putting on gas masks. Like what?
Yeah.
What do we need the masks for?
And yeah, from here I know, like, okay, she's gonna wake up in the jungle with Juliet, and it happens. So then Sawyer.
I have to think, what really would have happened? Because when they wake up, Kate starts stealing her knife, right?
Yeah.
And then Juliet wakes up, and I guess Juliet wasn't actually asleep, right?
Yeah.
What if Kate just went for the instant stab to the neck? What are you gonna do about that?
I mean,
Juliet, what was your plan?
I don't think Kate would do that, but I think the others would think Kate would do that.
I mean, she was gonna shoot that guy at least in the knee, like, with no hesitation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe not straight to the neck, but she might have stabbed her arm or something, like...
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we get a bit of Sawyer is fishing, and he smiles at Sun, who frowns at him for obvious reasons. So he ain't gonna get the Korean vote. That doesn't exist. And we get him doing a horrible job of gutting a fish, and Hurley just kind of makes fun of him for still not knowing how to do that.
Yeah, so then he asks Hurley for help being nice, and Hurley forces him to apologize, which you love to see.
I mean, Sawyer doesn't deserve Hurley's help.
No.
Even though, I mean, to be fair, Hurley intentionally got Sawyer into this situation.
Yeah. So then we get the whole scene of Kate and Juliet actually waking up, and they start arguing about the entire thing, because obviously...
yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I don't know if I would have thought this if I didn't get Chronologically Lost spoiling me, but, like, Juliet's acting is kind of bad here. It's not her failing to come off as genuine, it's the fact that she is just not overall reacting like you would think someone would. She doesn't feel like she's freaking out that her people abandoned her, and like, what did I do? Why did they choose to do this? She kind of just rolls with it too easily, and it's very suspicious.
Yeah. Any idea what the flashbacks for this one were?
Maybe a Juliet flashback?
Nope, it was a Kate flashback.
All right. Okay, that kind of makes sense. I'm not sure which.
It was Kate and Cassidy, that whole storyline.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, early season 3 has those whack plot lines, but like right now, later season 3, we're getting some like pretty good flashbacks. Kate and Cassidy is a pretty good one that does stuff with Kate's character, and we just got the Locke one. I mean, we had Nikki and Paulo in between, but I don't think this is doing that poorly.
Yeah, so Kate's like, Kate, we're gonna go get Jack and Saeed, which Juliet's like, that sounds like a bad idea, but Kate's like, no, we're gonna go get Jack and Saeed.
They are not leaving them behind. So
Juliet does say, like, Kate's like, why would they drag us out to the jungle and handcuff us? That makes no sense. And Juliet just says, Ben has a thing for mind games. Which, that's not even a lie. That's 100% what this is.
Yeah. And they get rained on, and Juliet's like, I hope this isn't about Jack. You ruined his chance to get off the island, which Locke ruined his chance to get off the island. Why would you blame Kate for that?
I guess it's like if Kate had never launched the rescue mission in the first place,
but
none of that would have happened.
I don't know.
It is true that if Kate had listened to Jack and just never came back, Jack would be at home right now. Like,
it's still like you have to use common sense when assigning blame.
Yeah.
Like,
so
how
anyway,
would
they
Kate have known?
get in a fight, and this time Kate dislocates Juliet's shoulder.
I mean, it's kind of justified. Like, I think Juliet's a great character. I love to see her. She's awesome. But right now, she is with the others and trying to manipulate Kate, and gets her ass beat.
Yeah. So then we get a
also,
monster.
Wait, I wanted to mention also, like, Well, actually, yeah, we get the monster, then they run, they...
And Juliet pretends not to know what the monster is.
Yeah.
Like,
And look, I just feel like I really like plots where two characters are stuck together and they have to learn to get along and get closer. And it doesn't hit with this because I know it's fake on Juliet's part.
yeah. Anyway, then we have a scene where Sawyer has to try and go be nice to Claire.
Yeah, because it's like Claire is influential apparently, and that makes sense. And so he has to give her the blanket, and Aaron just kind of starts crying as soon as Sawyer talks. And didn't Aaron used to get soothed by Sawyer's voice?
Yeah, they forgot about that.
Yeah, wow, I really hope someone got fired for that. Anyway, so he compliments Aaron on not being wrinkly, which, like, dude, just say he's cute. Just say he's a lovely baby. You can just lie even if you don't feel it. That's what you do when a baby is ugly.
Yeah.
And he's like, here, have this blanket. I don't like blankets. Ugh. Being nice is not in his nature. It's good that Hurley did this.
Yeah, and then Juliet breaks the news to Kate that there were cameras in the cages that whole time, and
Yep.
Jack saw her and Sawyer, and that he did everything he did because Kate broke his heart. Which,
And
honestly, true.
yeah,
Like,
no, I mean, that's on you, Kate.
yeah.
Like,
Which gets Kate mad enough to painfully relocate Juliet's shoulder.
I mean, you know, Juliet says also she'd be going home if not for Kate, and that is also on Locke, not Kate. But, you know, Jack's whole thing is on Kate. And so then Sawyer helps Desmond catch a boar, and Sawyer doesn't, like, help here. You know? Like, Desmond does... Maybe Sawyer helps carry it back, I guess. Well, anyway, Desmond asks his angle, because they never talk, and Sawyer just tells the truth. Politics is about bribes. You gotta get people to meet. And, I mean, I guess that works, even if he didn't help much.
Yeah, so then, you know, Kate and Juliet, they're continuing on their thing, and then the monster attacks again, so they both slip and fall into a mud pit because of course they do.
Because it's Lost, and the Lost writers can only think of so much.
Yeah, and they get to the sonar fence, and Kate's like,
no.
no.
Wait. There was also a bit we skipped over where Juliet kind of showed off that she knows way more about Jack than Kate does. And, like, she sort of says, like, yeah, he was married and then divorced. And she kind of, like, calls Kate out there, but Kate is then actually close with Jack, so I don't think Kate should feel bad. But anyway, then, yeah, they get to the sonar, and Juliet unlocks the cuffs and turns them off.
Yeah, so...
And I guess this...
I mean, to be fair, it does show that she was in control, actually, that whole time.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of this episode.
So I do want to point out, like, so this is probably when the show first revealed that is the purpose of the fences, right?
Yes. Well, the fences were also there to try and keep the hostiles out,
Yeah,
even though, as
but
Richard
this is
said,
then, like, the...
you know, that fence can't keep us out.
Yeah, this is then the real purpose, like, you know, it, and, I mean, could the Man in Black just go above the fence? I think so.
Apparently not.
But he is just kind of a dumbass. Or maybe he can't really fly, he can just kind of float a limited distance above the ground. I don't know.
I have to believe that's what it is. I also believe... You know what? It'll be explained later.
Anyway, so Juliet tells the truth, like...
Well, no, she tells a half-truth that Ben told her to. She says, oh, well, I just got abandoned, so I thought this was my best way of integrating into a new group, and blah, 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 which is, you know, untrue.
I mean, it's... I mean, even if you say, like, okay, like, let's say that was true and she was just acting when she was stuck with Kate, I don't know, I think it still feels kind of fake. It still doesn't feel like she's reacting like somebody who got abandoned would.
Yeah. So then we see Sawyer, you know, he's cooked the boar for everyone.
Yeah, which it's cool that they use the beer to cook it.
Yeah. And then he finds out that Hurley conned him into being nice.
Great con. And Hurley kind of says, this is because you're the temporary leader, because, you know, everyone else is gone, and he made everyone happy. And, I mean, good work, Hurley. But this is interesting because Sawyer seems like he's kind of happy with it. He's like, maybe I should become a leader. And that's really interesting because I know we get an arc in season 5 where Sawyer has to act as leader. And we get that
because now we know, Kate and Saeed and Jack are coming right back to the main camp.
So here's the thing. So I know we get later on that, we get that conversation I still hate where Sawyer says Jack was a bad leader, which he was wrong about. But, and it's kind of interesting, okay, this is where Sawyer's leader arc starts. So I wonder, I don't think the show is just going to drop this. I think that once Jack is back, we're going to get some conflict of them kind of butting heads trying to be the leader.
Yeah, so let me see. First there's a quick montage of everyone being just doing, whatever. There's been so many montages in the show.
And they never really give us new information.
Well, the montages aren't there for information, but I can appreciate a montage. I feel
like they don't give us. I don't think they even give us they often don't even give us another extra emotional beat.
Yeah, I can appreciate the montage when the tail section meets back up with the main survivors, and you see Bernard and Rose meet, and you see Jin and Sun reunite and everything. But then these other montages are just
I mean, it's these
what? I don't care.
Things are happening. I don't know. Anyway, Kate and Juliet make it to the Dharma base, and I mean, the reason you gave that they don't want to be stuck there when Widmore attacks. I just burped or something. The reason you gave that they don't want to be stuck there when Widmore attacks, that does make sense, but it's still just wild to me to see. I got this whole build-up of this is gonna be where the others live. I was waiting for that for ages. We got the season 3 opener is oh shit, they live here, and then they just leave and we see it abandoned like this. The main cast could literally move there. I mean, I don't know if the supplies are left there and maybe it's kind of broken. I mean, they kind of smashed a lot of shit, but they could.
Yeah. So then, Kate, she tells Jack she's sorry for everything, kind of. And then you can just see her face fall when he immediately is like, oh, well, how's Juliet doing?
Yep. Yeah, well, that gives us something to see resolved, because I think it will get resolved eventually, and I hope to see that happen.
Yeah, and then so Saeed is obviously we're not going to bring Juliet with us. She's an obvious spy. And Jack's like, nah, it's fine.
Yeah. And I do feel it's so weird that we have all this plot of them keeping Jack, and then it's just kind of they just leave him behind. And at first I was confused, and then I realized it makes sense because they don't need Jack for anything else. And just like with everyone else who came from the plane crash, they're fine with them just kind of living on the island just as long as they stay away from the others. And, they don't want people to leave, but they don't want people to join the others. So, they would just let Jack go back. And I guess they really didn't need him for anything else. And I was thinking, why wouldn't they just let him go before that? But no, because they had made that deal promising he could leave.
Yeah.
So I guess it's if Jack hadn't made Ben promise to let him leave, they really would have just let Jack go back to the beach after the surgery.
Well, maybe, depending on...
I think so.
Yeah, and I will say, now, since we have covered episodes 67 and 68 in this episode, out of 101, we are now 2/3 of the way through the series.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe we're in the home stretch now. It's so weird to be in the home stretch and yet be in season 3.
Yeah, but I feel I feel the plot's really gonna move because I know this is the show's gonna start moving faster. We're past early season 3, and there's gonna be less and less flashbacks that there is space for. Although I'm sure there'll still be a few more, but we're really gonna see the plot start to get places. And I really just, in a lot of ways, I don't know what happens in season 4, so I want to see it.
Yeah, so I will just say, for the immediate future, how well do you think Juliet is going to fit in and vibe with the main crew?
I think it's going to feel a lot like Ana Lucia, where at first she's an outsider and then she gradually just kind of is. Like, at first, she kind of keeps her distance and it's awkward. Eventually, there's kind of no difference. And I think we're going to get this moment where she helps Claire, and that's kind of how she earns some trust. And even after that, she's not going to be, like, perfectly one of them, but, like, she'll be something. But what I don't know is that, like, are we going to get a reveal? Like, is she going to betray them? Or is she just going to kind of, like... Because, I mean, she ends up joining them when it's, like... I know she's with them when they're stuck in the past, so, like, that makes sense. And maybe she's an other this whole time, but then by the time they're stuck in the past, she kind of just has to, like, be one of them. Or are we going to get something before that where there's, like, a betrayal and we test her loyalties? I really don't know.
Well, those are all questions that I think will be answered in later episodes, so... I hope you join us next time where we will be covering episode 69, December 12th to the 15th, and episode 70, December 15th to the 18th.